减少工作时间，从整个的产业结构是不是能够开始做得到呢？今天的关键对话，我们为您邀请到了创新经济改革家刚特包利。他说，台湾厂商过去太过于用代工来支撑我们的产业，接下来我们应该朝创新来迈进。而且台湾的过去创新习惯于渐进式的创新，他认为要寻求突破性创新才是未来创新的关键。
像我手上这个写着“喜”字的纸灯罩，或者是平常我们常常放在包包里面的笔记本，这些东西看起来很寻常，不过你知道吗？它们可都是用石头做的，听起来好像很不可思议。不过其实这些就代表着未来的创新概念。 关键时刻掌握关键对话，大家好，我是楚文。我们今天关键对话就为您邀请到了创新经济的改革家刚特 Polly 来接受我们的专访。Polly 他以他的创新概念，不仅成功的当成了一个创业家，而且还获选过世界的杰出10大青年，同时他也创造过1亿个就业机会。今天他就来到我们的关键对话，跟我们一起来分享他对于未来的创新想象是什么样子。我们一起来欢迎 Mr. Polly。Hello, nice to meet you. Mr. Polly.
Nice to meet you, Ashley, and nice to meet you all there in the audience.
We know that this time you come to Taiwan, you will introduce the new concept of the innovation in the future. So we're curious about that. In your imagination, what does our world look like in the future, and what are the driving forces that will change the future?
You know, the number one issue we have to realize is that there is over 1 billion people who don't have food, who don't have water, who don't have a house. That means that I envision a future where we have eradicated poverty. Eradication of poverty, though, is not just by providing food, it is by enabling us to make use of what we have. And this is the big shift. Instead of trying to invent new things and create totally new things, my driving force in innovation is imagine that you do everything you can imagine with what you have.
Can you give us some examples? We know that this time you bring something that is really amazing, like this.
Yeah, so you're carrying this, or you're having in your hands those stone-based trays.
So they are all made by stone?
80% stones and 20% polymers, and these polymers could be made either from petroleum or from natural resources.
Oh, so how can they be made? Because we know that this paper is soft, but stone is hard. They are really different materials.
Well, stones are hard when you have them in a big block. But if you create it into very fine dust that is actually so fine it runs like it were water, then you don't have the hardness anymore. In touching it, it'll feel soft, but it can always be recycled. So the big difference is if you have normal paper, you can recycle it 2-3 times. But if you're having stone paper, you can recycle it forever.
And how about silk and bamboo? We know that you have great idea on this. How can they create huge business opportunity?
I come many times to China, and I've been many times in Taiwan, and I know that bamboo is in the heart and soul, and it's part of your culture and tradition, and so is silk. But what is really unique about the raw silk is that if you have a structure made, for example, out of bamboo, hand-woven bamboo, and you create a natural cover with the silkworms over your bamboo, then you have what is for me the most healthiest environment you could ever imagine. Because raw silk was originally desired by the high society because it over years became very evident that if you have an environment of raw silk, then there's no fungus, there's no bacteria, there's no virus. So you have an environment where you want your children to sleep in and grow up in. And I have 6 children, and my youngest is 7 months. So we created a new crib. And the crib is a crib made out of bamboo with a beautiful silk cover. In the end, you have to see it to imagine what an incredible product.
Houses cost, because we know that if you want to create huge business opportunity, the costs have to be balanced for its price.
You know, silk has always been an exceptional product, and it never has been for the masses. And I don't think that we have to create a market that solely supplies to the masses. I'm interested in supplying for the moment to the 10–15% of the society that can afford it. But what is happening is that for every kilogram of silk, I have 80 kilograms of excrements from the caterpillars. That means that all of this is generating topsoil. And what we need to have long-term access to food is to generate topsoil. So it's not only that our baby is sleeping in a healthy environment, we're also generating a topsoil. Now, anything new that you do, anything that has not been done for many years, will cost more in the beginning. And it will remain a cultural product. But we know society is prepared for culture and tradition and to safeguard it. So I'm not worried about competing against the lowest possible costs. I'm interested in getting sufficient money rolling so that this becomes a viable business.
If we look at the smartphone, we know that Taiwan has a lot of technology company, and smartphone is really important for them because it has huge business opportunity. So in this smartphone, do you have any ideas that will have great innovation?
Well, we have done an awful lot with electronics. Myself, though, I am not so worried about the electronics business. I don't even have a phone. So I'm a very unique person. But what we are doing is we're using smartphones to regulate pacemakers, and we derive energy from the phone in order to have a pacemaker function without a battery. Because the radiant frequency of your phone allows you to actually power your pacemaker. We have the first two pacemakers installed in dogs in Medtronic in the United States. So this is evolving. But my priorities goes on securing that we have a quality of life that is not determined by electronics only, that is determined by high quality of water, great quality of living, great quality of food. And I think we may not forget that the electronic world is one world, but if you don't have water, food, energy, and housing, and health, then all that electronics wouldn't be contributing an awful lot to your quality of life.
So from your view, what does the real innovation mean? And what's your suggestion for Taiwanese company?
You see, when you want to have breakthrough innovations, that's very different than when you just want to continuously improve a little bit. So I'm focusing on breakthrough innovations. I'm looking at changing the rules of the game. I'm not looking at playing along the rules of the game. Now, if you want to change the rules of the game, you got to be fundamentally different. You have to have something that is 10, 20, 50, 100 times better. And if you want to go through that kind of an innovation, then you have to wake up the child in you. You know, a child of 3, 4, 5 years old doesn't make any difference between fantasy and reality. Everything is reality. And what I'm faced up to too often, Taiwanese industry is very conservative in its innovations. It only wants to improve on what it has. It is not ready to leapfrog. And I think what we're in need of is that when you're in that cycle of always improving, there comes a point you have to leapfrog. And if you leapfrog, then you need to translate that fantasy into a reality. And then you need a science that maybe doesn't even exist. And these are the breakthroughs I'm after.
A lot of business leaders want to know the secret that can make our global economy keep prospering in the future. But it seems hard. So what's the problem of our global economy?
Our global economy has decided over the past 20, 30 years to pursue a very simple model. And the model we're pursuing is standardization, higher volume, and produce more of the same at lower costs. That's the logic we're following. Now, that logic has hit the wall. It is not possible to continue to produce more, always cheaper. And if you want to pursue that role, you will fail and your economy will stall. What we are in need of is not so much the supply chain management, the outsourcing, the distribution centers with logistics, with all our innovations around it. What we're in desperate need of is to really think through how can we get 10 times more out of the resources that we have. We can stimulate the economy in a very different way. But condition number one is go for breakthroughs, disruptive technologies on the market, and ensure that you are first and foremost responding to the basic needs of everyone. Because if you respond to the basic needs of everyone, then everyone can participate in the market. And if you exclude 10, 20, 30% of the people from being part of the market, you're going to have a flat growth as we have today.
Thank you, Mr. Pauly. 谈到创新，台湾厂商很常聚焦在电子科技的创新，像是智慧型手机或是平板该怎么样来突破。不过今天 Mr. Pauly 告诉我们，其实未来世界的创新将会聚焦在基本的能源，像是一般的大自然可以看见的东西，都可能成为创新的灵感。而这样的世界又会带给我们什么样的改变，也让大家拭目以待。